Hello and welcome back to Theatre Beard, the YouTube channel specifically for students of drama, theatre, the performing arts or theatre studies. Or if you're someone who just takes a bit of an interest and wants to learn more, you're very welcome as well. I'm so pleased that you could join us for this Wordy Wednesday. Wordy Wednesdays are here so that we can learn more about theatrical terminology so that we can be confident when we're talking about theatre ourselves and also understand what other people are talking about when they use specific words. Today's Wordy Wednesday is all about speech, theatrical speeches and the different terminologies we use to describe different types of speech. But before we jump into today's Wordy Wednesday, make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any future videos. Okay, so the first word for our Wordy Wednesday is prologue. And the reason I want to put prologue here is because you've kind of just seen one. So the prologue is the bit that comes before the main story. It's an introduction, it tells you what kind of thing might be happening in the rest of the story and really sets you up for the things to come. There's a really famous prologue for Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare, and in that prologue we learn all sorts of things about the story that we're about to see. So we learn about the families and we learn about where the story is set, all in those first two lines. Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene. So just from those two very simple lines of text, we know that it's about two families and we know that they both live in Verona. So a prologue comes before anything else. Now we're going to move on to the word dialogue, and dialogue refers to text that is spoken by two or more people. So there might be 5 people in the scene and all of that conversation can still be referred to as dialogue. However, if there are only 2 people in the scene, we can call this another term. So you might hear the term duologue if there's only 2 people in that scene. It would still be absolutely correct to use the term dialogue, but you might hear people refer to it as duologue, so I thought I'd pop this in. And the reason we know it's for 2 people is because of that prefix duo, which means 2. Whereas mono means 1, which brings me on to our next word, monologue, which is a speech just for one person. Now, there are 2 basic types of monologue in drama. There's the exterior monologue and the interior monologue. An exterior monologue is when there's an actor on stage, all on their own, delivering their speech, but they're delivering it as if they are speaking to another person. Whereas an interior monologue is when they are speaking their thoughts aloud. So we learn a little bit more about their interior lives, what's going on inside them, how they're feeling, what they're thinking. This second type, the interior monologue, sometimes goes by a different name. So it's sometimes referred to as a soliloquy, particularly in the works of Shakespeare. And again, there are some really famous Shakespearean soliloquies. For example, Hamlet's speech, "To be or not to be, that is the question." That's a really famous soliloquy, and they're on stage, all on their own, describing their innermost thoughts and their innermost feelings and this conflict about whether they should end their life or not. Next up is the word aside, and an aside is a dramatic device where the actor speaks directly to the audience and breaks out of the scene. As a theatrical device, the audience understand that they're the only people that can hear that aside. There might be other characters on stage, but they can't hear what that actor has just said. It's just been for the ears of the audience. And the way that an aside differs from a monologue or a soliloquy is that it's usually a really short statement. It's never a very long speech. It's usually just a short little comment on the action. There are also examples of asides being used in television and film, especially quite recently. There was a TV show called Miranda where she would break out of the scene, turn to the camera and speak directly to the people at home. You might have seen it in the film Deadpool or in the television programme Fleabag or in Chewing Gum by Michaela Cole. But you're far too young to have watched Deadpool and probably Fleabag, so this is not recommended. But the man on the internet said I could watch it. Next up is the word subtext, and if you caught the Wordy Wednesday when we were talking about different types of words we use when we're referring to scripts, scripts are sometimes referred to as the text, which are the words that the characters say, whereas the subtext is all to do with why they're saying it, what message they want to get across. So you as actors almost need to work as investigators to discover what that subtext is. And again, the prefix sub means underneath. So if you think about a submarine, it goes underneath the ocean, whereas subtext is the meaning that's underneath the text. And finally, we come to the word epilogue, which is a speech that happens at the end of a play. And again, there are quite famous epilogues in Shakespeare plays, but you might catch them in other performances as well. In comparison to a prologue, which comes at the start that tells you about what you're about to see, an epilogue is almost like a summary of the story that you have seen, a bit like a conclusion in an essay. And rather fittingly, that brings an end to this Wordy Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you've got any words that you're unsure of or any terminology that you would like to know more about, then by all means, pop that in the comments below, or any suggestions for future videos. I will be happy to put something together for you, because this is your channel as much as it is mine. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next time. There are also lots of examples of uses of